What's up, y'all? This is Lou. So right now let's discuss me, a social justice warrior. A little while back I was messaging back and forth with this ex-Marine I know who referred to me as an SJW. And what kind, he did it in like a nudging kind of way, because we do have mutual respect for each other. However, what struck me is the context of using SJW as an insult. So I thought about it, and I'm like, if I can be accurately described as a social justice warrior, how do I feel about that? And how did I get here? Well, I've always been anti-authoritarian throughout my life. I never understood the idea of forced conformity. I grew up in the 80s during the Cold War scares, where there was a lot of mandatory nationalism, and I never particularly understood this. And I grew up in the South, so there was a lot of pledge saying and national anthem singing at pretty much every given opportunity. And a lot of rural people that I know, would listen to a lot of like America-themed music. But I saw a lot of suffering in communities that I frequented. My own family weren't doing very well. So it was tough for me to grasp that concept. Not only that, but when I look back on the media of the day, because people will tell you that artists are almost always on the cutting edge of social movements. So influential artists in the 80s, influential movies, influential television themes, influential writers, when I think about what's going on nowadays with people who think that people of certain genders shouldn't be allowed to wear whatever they want, I think about Boy George. I think about Prince. I think about artists that I grew up with who were world renowned, who pushed those lines. Now, did I want to dress like Boy George? No. But did I care that Boy George dressed like Boy George? Also, no. And honestly, I didn't even like Culture Club back in the day. But as I got older, I found the music sentimental because for nostalgic value. You know what I mean? So, but Prince, like, I'll fight somebody over Prince. Like, I'll fight over Prince. You know what I mean? Like, and that dude wore lace and high heels. You think about who influenced the times you lived in, and how society's changed over times, and how there was a running theme in movies and even television shows about people not being comfortable with these changes, and not knowing what to do. Like, everybody loves the movie Footloose. What was Footloose about? It was about an uptight town that didn't want to let people dance. Dirty Dancing had the same aspect to it. Demonization of freedom, demonization of personal freedom specifically. And I don't remember too many of those movies where the people doing the demonizing were right. At the end of the movie, we won, you can't dance, dancing is now banned. Great, everybody be happy. I don't remember that. I'll take another favorite from my childhood that a lot of rah-rah America type dudes like, the movie Roadhouse. So do you remember what Patrick Swayze's character, what Dalton was standing up against in Roadhouse? He was standing up against capitalist authoritarianism. A rich guy felt that he could do whatever he wanted in a town and shape the town the way he wanted it. And when anyone else tried to compete with him, he overruled them and shut them down. And Patrick Swayze's character, Patrick Swayze, who in another movie, Tu Wong Fu, did a lot of drag, stood up against that and fought against it. Sam Elliott also fought against it. In fact, in that movie, it killed Sam Elliott. I think people get their priorities mixed up as they get older, or as things progress to the point where it makes them uncomfortable. Like, they were okay with the progression back then, but now they're uncomfortable and they don't want anybody to do it. There were so many things that influenced us in this direction, like in a direction of social progress. And the running theme was always to stand up for the person who doesn't have any power. When I see legislation levied against people who don't have voting power because there's not enough of them to make a big difference, when I see demonization of these people for dressing a certain way or acting a certain way, facilitated by people who listened to glam rock back in the day, 80s hair metal. If you listen to that, there were a bunch of dudes dressed like girls. Poison, everybody remember groups like that? Motley Crue, half the time people didn't know if the members were male or female. You saw blurred gender lines your whole entire life. Don't lie about it now. It's just now it's getting to a point where some aspect of it makes you uncomfortable. But back in the day, you listened to people who wanted to purposefully make people like this uncomfortable. Go back and look at Dee Snider in makeup and long hair testifying before Congress on the sexual perversion of his music. And him saying that any sexual perversion in the mind of people who heard the music comes from their own mind. He laid out the case in front of Congress. Yes, I'm a social justice warrior because I believe in freedom. Because I believe that America is about freedom of expression. Now, am I a free speech absolutist? Not necessarily. But do I feel like preserving the status quo is more important than that? No, of course not. Of course not. And to my dying day as an American, I will defend people's right to be themselves. This has been Lou, on your left.